When we leave the hustle and bustle of the city and head out to the vast lands of China, we can explore the outback, right? Maybe even venture into the expansive desert, or take a trek through the Gobi, right? At the very least, we can soak in the awe-inspiring beauty of sublimity. But how is this kind of beauty even possible? Kant had a pretty interesting take on it, and I've referenced it in my book on philosophy of art. On page 117, I started off with my own thoughts. In the second paragraph, I explained that even though the incredibly magnificent scenery overwhelms our limited perception, it also sparks our minds to rise above those limits and grasp the infinite. So, when we contemplate this, our minds also undergo a kind of elevation, reaching towards the infinite. Kant calls this elevated state of mind reason, rather than just understanding, and it's the ability to comprehend things absolutely and unconditionally. This point, of course, is not the topic of aesthetics philosophy, but Kant distinguishes three levels of the human mind. Sensibility, what is above sensibility? Understanding. In English, what we usually call reason is actually understanding. Above understanding, there is something called reason, which is also referred to as rationality. Reason is the ability to comprehend things absolutely and unconditionally. When this kind of reason operates within the realm of sensibility, it is called the sublime. When we're just regular old living creatures, we don't have the muscle to push back against the huge forces of nature, but our brains are wide awake. Kant reckoned that our minds boost our inner strength, going beyond the usual limits and helping us find a different kind of resistance inside ourselves. That gives us the guts to take on the idea of nature being all-powerful. So, what's our weapon against this massive nature? It's the power of the mind. As living creatures, we don't have the strength to go head-to-head with it. The mind's power has this never-ending side to it, which Kant sees as moral. It's a moral power that can stand up to the massive forces of nature, and that's what makes up the sublime beauty. In our day-to-day thinking, we might see morality as just a bunch of rules about how to behave, with good and bad all sorted out. But Kant looks at morality from a deeper angle. For example, if I'm starving and there's a juicy steak in front of me, I make a firm decision not to chow down because it's not mine. We've got the ability to do that, right? What's that ability? It's the power to stop the natural laws that usually run inside us. Like when we're hungry, the natural law in our bodies says, eat, but we humans can put a stop to that, keep it from happening. That's not a natural force, it's a superhuman power. Right? That's what we call morality. So, Kant was like, do people even have freedom, and if so, where's the proof? He thought that as living creatures, we're pretty much at the mercy of nature's rules and regulations. Everything in nature, all its laws and necessities, doesn't leave much room for freedom. But hold up, Kant also believed that we do have freedom, and he found the evidence in morality. He straight up said, morality is the reason for recognizing freedom, and you can find those words in his book, Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals. According to him, morality isn't just some natural thing, it's a human thing. And this human thing shows that we're more than just biological beings. As living creatures, we're all tied down by the laws of nature, and freedom seems like a far-off dream. But check this out, let's say I'm starving, and there's a juicy steak right in front of me. But because it's not mine, I make the tough call not to chow down. I've got the power to do that, and that power shows that I can put a stop to the natural laws that usually run the show inside me. It's like a superhuman power. This whole deal proves that we've got freedom, and that's why morality is the key to recognizing it. How do we know we're free? It's all about our moral compass. See, our ability to make moral choices is rooted in our freedom. Because, think about it, it's only because we're free that we can even have a sense of right and wrong. And that's why the second sentence comes back into play. Freedom is the whole reason we have morality. Kant breaks it down and gives a deep philosophical explanation for why the sublime, as an aesthetic idea, is based on this. One key thing about the sublime is how it's kind of terrifying. It's like, it totally overpowers us and crushes the power of every living being around us, leaving us feeling vulnerable. And that's what makes it the aesthetic idea of the sublime. Kant basically said that nature seems awe-inspiring because it pushes our imagination to the limit, making us see things in a whole new light. And in those moments, we realize that our own purpose is pretty darn awe-inspiring too, even more so than nature itself. These quotes are all from Kant's Critique of Judgment, where he dives deep into the whole idea of the sublime. When we talk about the sublime in art, it's all about the buzz we get from breaking free from the everyday worries about usefulness and practicality. See, being all caught up in those concerns just shows off our basic animal instincts. But when we're faced with the raw power of nature, all those instincts suddenly seem pretty puny. So, do we really need to stress about holding on to this power and all the consequences that come with it? Nope. The only thing that can save us when nature throws its weight around is the awesome power of our own minds. We usually think we can rely on our smarts and physical strength to get ahead and avoid getting hurt, but let's be real, when we're up against Mother Nature's might, our skills and desires don't amount to much. So, it's not about being clever, or even about understanding, it's about having the strength to get a handle on something that's beyond our normal existence. When we tap into this human strength, those big scary things in nature become a symbol of how amazing the human spirit is, and that's what creates sublime beauty. It's like, when we appreciate this kind of beauty, we break free from the everyday grind and stop stressing about practical stuff. Most of us have probably felt that at some point, right? We just talked about how this amazing, mind-blowing artistic image comes to be. We mainly looked at how natural stuff makes us feel this crazy powerful force of nature, like we were just chatting about the awesome feelings nature gives us. But hey, when it comes to making art, creating this kind of mind-blowing image is a whole different ball game. Let's delve into art history for a sec. In the past, a lot of the European art that gives us that mind-blowing feeling is all about religious stuff. Think about those huge, majestic Christian churches. When you step inside, you can feel this spooky, deep vibe that gives you the chills. With all the travel opportunities these days, you might have been in one of these churches and felt that mysterious, deep atmosphere. In more recent European art, after everyone started sharing artistic ideas, there are often works that show off the mind-blowing, symbolizing the fight between people and their fate, and showing off the mind-blowing parts of human nature in this struggle. In this art philosophy, I also brought up Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony as an example. The whole symphony makes you feel the beauty of nature. But then there's the fourth part, the storm, where the orchestra really brings out the mind-blowing vibes. The violins play the sounds of rain and the wind swirling around, and then the storm hits. The drums start banging, making it sound like thunder. And the trumpet, with its unique, piercing sound, represents lightning, which is seriously mind-blowing. As you listen, it's like you can almost see the lightning flashing. Even though this part of the symphony is short, you can totally feel the mind-blowing vibes. In China, we've got some really awesome poetry that captures that epic, larger-than-life feeling, especially from poets who lived on the frontier. Such as Sun Shen's 8th century CE poem, Seeing Off the Army on its Western Campaign. In this poem, there are lines like, "Have you not seen the galloping horses on the edge of the snow-covered plain, the vast yellow dust reaching the sky? The winds of autumn howl at night in Luntai, the river's shattered stones as big as bushel baskets, scattering with the wind." The frontier scenery gives us the sense of the sublime. And we are all familiar with lines from Wang Wei's 8th century CE poems, the lone smoke column in the vast wasteland, the round setting sun on the long river. You cannot say these are just beautiful imagery, they are sublime. So Wang Wei said, the realm has degrees, not to be judged as superior or inferior. We cannot say the sublime realm is superior, nor that simply depicting beauty is inferior. There is no distinction of superior and inferior. He gave examples: fine drizzle sees fish emerging, slight breeze slants the swallows. These lines, are they not inferior to sunset lights the great banner, horses neigh in the whistling wind? Comparing the two, one is beautiful, the other is sublime, but there is no distinction of superior and inferior between them. There is indeed a difference in magnitude. The great is the sublime, the small is the beautiful, but there is no superior or inferior. Fine drizzle sees fish emerging, slight breeze slants the swallows, is of course beautiful. Sunset lights the great banner, horses neigh in the whistling wind, is of course sublime. So in my art philosophy book, I say the reader can discern for himself. For example, is Wang Wei's lone smoke rises straight from the great desert, the long river's sunset rounds full, sublime or beautiful? For instance, in Fan Zhongyan's 11th century CE Yang Tower, there's a line: the sky's alight, a boundless expanse of blue, the vast mist clears, the bright moon shines for 1,000 miles. Is this beautiful or sublime? The scenery is vast, right? The sky's alight, a boundless expanse of blue. But you can't say it's sublime, it's beautiful. It doesn't give you that sense of awe and pain. Read again: the long mist clears, the bright moon shines for 1,000 miles. The scenery is vast, but it's not exactly sublime, it's still beautiful. Beauty is linked with freedom, and the sublime is too. If freedom is expressed in the natural world, it comes across as emotions that bring us joy and pleasure, which is called beauty. If freedom can still rise up in the face of pain and obstacles, that's called the sublime. So, we've really delved into the different types of aesthetic images of beauty and the sublime.